Welcome to Windsor, Lanzarote. This is our hotel in Arrecife, and we are going to catch the bus to Uga. The holiday is organised by the Ramblers, and we have two guides, Tess and Mike. We had heard of the Black Sands, but it didn't prepare us for what seemed to be a journey through a continual gravel pit. But when we got to Uga, there was a convenient cafe nearby. Tess gathered up those inside, and soon we were wandering through the town, where at least someone had tried to alleviate the continual brown. Our route led uphill, where crops were being grown, and we were fascinated to see how the farmers protected their vines from the effect of the wind. A few random rocks gave us a chance for a rest, and to realise they even cultivate prickly pears, planting them in hollows to keep off the worst of the wind. A scarf came in handy to keep one lady's hat on, otherwise you kept your head down to stop your hat blowing off. And we admired the tiny flowers that were doing their best to brighten up the surroundings. We're nearing the top of the climb now, and a decision to stop for lunch. We had found an abandoned shell of a building that gave some shelter from the wind, and then we could see our distant destination of the sea. But there's a settlement to go through yet, and an opportunity to see a bit more vegetation. With only 5 inches of rain a year, these lush gardens must take some looking after. And further down we came across one method of collecting rainwater, a shallow depression presumably feeding into a cistern below ground. Even in the gardens the shrubs have to be protected from the wind. And a little further on, a splash of colour in a barren environment. So, after topping up the fluid intake, we get closer to the sea. And over the headland we eventually come down to the harbour at Puerto del Carmen. It was quite a contrast to the barren land we had been walking through, and we made our way down to the massive concentration of apartments and villas, but also to the bus that would take us back to Arrecife. The next day we headed out to the Timanfaya National Park. 300 years ago this area was the most fertile in Lanzarote. But in 1730 a major volcanic eruption covered the area with lava. At the visitor centre we attended a simulation of that time. Despite the sign that appeared to say, "You can't do anything," our walk that day was through the lava fields. We set off along a wide track, and slowly we became more interested in our surroundings. Below here were the farms and villages that at one time provisioned not only the islanders, but also sailors such as Christopher Columbus, preparing for his voyage to America. Due to lack of rain, there is practically no erosion, and this is 300 years of nature trying to regenerate the area. When the dust and water fell back to earth after the eruption, it coagulated into lumps, leaving land that looked as though it had been attacked by a giant plough. But eventually the sight of the sea replaced the feeling of having walked through a land of the dead. I think we could have stayed there for the rest of the day, watching the waves roll in and crashing on the shore. But time to be called in and continue our walk. Can you imagine those chunks of lava being created? There was an opportunity to walk further into the lava, but it was very rough, and a fall would result in very nasty grazing. So we stuck to the wide track. Here the colourful shading on the hills relieved the fascinating monotony of the lava fields, and the sight of the sea again gave us a spring in our step, and where we would visit another tourist attraction, the Green Lagoon. And not far away, some interesting caves and blowholes. Show over, and time to catch the coach back to Arrecife, stopping for a short while beside the salt pans which once supplied salt to the rest of the world, but which now are a derelict reminder of a past industry. Then on past intriguing cultivated palm tree fields and some very ornate houses. Our last day started at a little cafe in Thames, where we could get coffee and admire a rather attractive mural. Outside we did what many people do, peer over the garden walls to see what was growing. Although plants may not grow easily here, neither do the weeds. We are heading into the farmland Lanzarote style, with a few more interesting plants to see. And also typical farmland chaos. This had been a circular walk, and we are getting back into town.
Golden barrel cactus.
I'm not sure if the cactus had any beneficial uses, but certainly the aloe vera has been used in medicine for thousands of years. So, back to the cafe, and an opportunity to have an ice cream as we wait for the bus. Back in Arrecife, we strolled along the prom, admiring one man's handiwork. While, out at sea, a floating hotel left the island, and whose passengers were unaware of exactly what they were missing. People were gathering to see the carnival procession, known as the Burning of the Sardine. It marks the end of the carnival season, and many women dress in black mourning, the end of fun and games for a while, and the onset of the religious fasting time. Traditionally, the parade is headed by a priest or judge, but tradition seems to have been stretched a bit here. The quality and quantity of the costumes is truly amazing. The carnival processions must support a major industry. Drums, drums, and still more drums. And when there is a bit of a hold-up, one young lad seems to beat out his frustration. Anyway, on they go, though the large drums look rather uncomfortable to carry. There were costumes that had a definite oriental appearance, to more sophisticated ones reminiscent of American drum majorettes. some were simple fantasy, and worn by some children who should have been in bed at this time. And then the Blue Warriors, leading in a most extraordinary float. We never saw the burning of the Sardine, but this was a most memorable way to end our holiday.